I Yeah, I can hear you well.
Okay, I've got you the same as well. All right. So I'll ask a question. What do we use, or what does the engine use to change the pitch of the propeller blades?
There's a governor in up in the inside of the propeller that that activates the gears that changes the pitch of that propeller.
So not so much gears.
Okay.
So kind of talk me through just a little bit more of that. And this is not stump to chump. This is kind of just a little bit of conversation. I want
Oh,
to get your understanding of it, and then I'll kind of make little corrections in as we go. All
okay.
right.
Well,
So let's
so
say you're flying along,
yep.
and you are at cruise power, let's say 21 inches manifold pressure, 2300 RPM,
Right.
and you want to make a climb. What's the first thing that we move in the cockpit when we want to start a climb?
Well, if I'm gonna climb, so I'm gonna want to increase the throttle. So before I increase the throttle, I'm going to push the propeller forward, so I lessen the angle on the prop.
That's right.
Then I apply the power.
Nice job. So that's the order of operations. Anytime you do a climb, blue knob first. Think towards the blue sky. You want to go towards the blue sky? What are you going to move first? You're going to move the blue knob. Then move the throttle because you want to get as much thrust as possible to execute a climb to make it more efficient. You're making a climb propeller. I don't care about the cruise angle of attack for the prop anymore. I want to get going. Okay, so you push that blue knob forward. You already talked about the governor a little bit. That's good. So there is a governor in the propeller, in the hub, that changes the pitch of the blades. When you move that blue knob forward, what makes the RPM increase?
The RPM increases because the oil pressure, the 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 governor senses that there's a change in the oil pressure, and there's a balance between the counterweights and that oil pressure that allows it to increase to maintain that steady RPM. So if you're pushing that blue knob forward, you're you're letting the system know that you want to increase the RPM.
That's right. Nice job with that. So you push the blue knob forward. There's a linkage connected to your hand to that knob to the flyweight that changes the position of those flyweights, so they either go outwards or they go inwards. And that changes the flow of oil into the propeller hub, which changes the pitch of the blades. Now, if you select a high RPM, does the pitch of your blades increase or decrease?
It decreases.
Nice job. Now, when it decreases, does the drag on those propeller blades increase or decrease?
Oh, it decreases.
It decreases. So now I have less drag on the prop, and I have the same force on the engine. So now, is the engine going to make the prop turn faster or slower?
Oh, it'll make the prop turn faster.
That's right. So that's what you're changing there. So you're changing the drag on the propeller blades. You take the drag away, the engine's got more force, so it's going to spin it faster. And eventually, that force is going to balance. Eventually, you're going to increase that drag because the prop's spinning faster, and it maintains the same RPM. All right. Now, let's say that you're flying along. You've climbed up to altitude, and you level off. Let's say you go up 1,000 feet. What's the first thing that we move in the cockpit?
We're going to want to uh, reduce the RPMs, but first, before we reduce the RPMs, we're going to want to reduce the throttle.
That's right. Think the brown thing or the black thing that looks like dirt. We're gonna move that first.
Okay.
So just try and remember that mantra: blue sky, blue knob;
Okay.
dirt side, dirt knob.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna bring that throttle back. Why do we bring the throttle back before the uh, prop lever?
Um, because when we bring the prop lever back, we're increasing the drag. The prop's increasing the drag, and so, or increasing the drag. So we want to make sure we're decreasing that the power that we're putting into it before we start increasing all that drag.
That's right. Biggest takeaway with that is don't overstress the engine.
Yeah.
So you want to climb, you push the blue knob forward, the RPM increases. Now you've reduced the drag on the propeller, so the engine has more flexibility to increase the power. If you went full throttle, prop all the way back, you're saying, I want a ton of force coming from the engine, fighting a ton of drag on the propeller. That's going to cause a lot of stress, the airframe, the fly weights, and the governor for the propeller. So always think, in general, your throttle setting and manifold pressure should be less than your propeller RPM in hundreds of RPM. So that's where you hear 21, 23, 21 inches manifold pressure, 23, 100 RPM. Make sense?
Yeah, in general.
In general. Okay. So let's say you're flying along and we have an engine failure for whatever reason. First things you always do with the emergency, fly the airplane. So if it's an engine failure of any kind, set best glide speed. For this airplane, it seems like you've studied the POH. Do you know the best glide speed for the Bonanza?
The best glide speed would be 110.
110 for, that's really fast. I believe you. If that's out of the POH, then okay, trust the POH. 110 knots for best glide speed. While you're troubleshooting, let's say that you see an airport, you say, that's where I want to divert to. What are some things that we can do in the cockpit to reduce the drag on the airplane?
Well, I don't know, but I'd guess that reducing the drag would be to increase the pitch of the propeller, because then the propeller wouldn't be as flat against the wind that's forced up against the propeller.
Nice job. A windmilling propeller is one of the biggest sources of drag because it's not giving you any power and it's just a big barn door out there giving you a lot of extra drag. When we pull the prop lever all the way back, what do we call that position? There's a name for it.
That's low RPM, high pitch.
So it is low RPM. It is high pitch. But there's a certain position where you've pulled it back as far as it can go. The pitch of the blades is as high as it can go. And the propeller essentially stops. What do we call that?
Feathered.
Feathered. Nice job. So that's a big thing to keep in mind. If you know you can't start the engine again, let's say you've tried to restart and it doesn't work. In a complex airplane, you pull that blue knob all the way back, you are going to feather that propeller. That propeller stops. Think light as a feather. Think as little drag as a feather. You're going to change the pitch of the blades. Now they're directly like knife edge on to the relative wind, and you've reduced the drag. In a real airplane, when you go fly this, try it sometime if you can, and you've got a landing environment made, but try and experience what that feels like with your instructor, because you will feel the airplane. It's almost like, wow, I just got a whole bunch of extra lift. You haven't. You got rid of a bunch of extra drag. And that can help with your glide performance, especially if you know you have an airport made, but let's say you have a headwind or there's an obstacle. You can use that to your advantage. Okay, questions on that?
Well, I'm just maybe not much this question, but just it's interesting. If I look at the emergency procedures in the pilot operating handbook, it talks about landing without power. I don't know if that's an emergency descent, but it doesn't mention feathering anywhere. But it could be just this particular pilot operating handbook too. But it's
So
interesting.
I'd have to look at it with you.
Okay. Ow!
Are you all right?
Yeah, I got a weird thing on my elbow, but it's okay. Sorry.
No, you're good. All right, so let's take a look here. So landing without power. Let's landing your power. All right, so this looks like a forced landing.
Okay.
Is what it implies. It looks like for this particular POH, it doesn't talk to it. It's separate from an emergency descent. An emergency descent, think like I have a fire. I have a medical emergency. I
Right.
need to get down as quick as possible.
Right.
So everything there says throw the drag out, high RPM,
Right.
high drag, landing gear down, and so on.
Right.
Landing without power probably talks to that just on the basis of, hey, I want you to focus on these priority things. That is something that you can add when you do a real world high performance over to your airplane. But talk to your instructor about that and see if, hey, is this something that we can consider for this particular aircraft? And is this something that we can demonstrate?
Right. Okay.
Okay. Does that answer your question on that?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. All right. So let's say new airplane, new day. You're flying around, and we level off to altitude. Let's say you want to descend, and you bring the throttle all the way back to idle. Is your propeller RPM going to stay at whatever you had it set to, 2,400 RPM?
I don't think so because I think it'll, depending on the pitch that I set on the aircraft, it's going to come up against the stop, and it's going to start behaving more like a non-constant speed prop, a fixed prop.
That's right. Will it? And now let's say at first you bring the throttle back to idle.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you've got a normal cruising airspeed. Is the propeller going to stay at a constant RPM at first?
Yes, at first it will.
Talk me through kind of the forces that are acting on the propeller and why and how it's staying at that constant RPM. How is it spinning at the same speed if we're slowing down and the engine's at idle?
Well, the engine, as I bring the throttle back, the manifold pressure is going to increase, the oil pressure is going to decrease, but then it'll get to a point where the oil pressure can't keep up with that RPM anymore, and the RPM will start to slow down.
Close. So your manifold pressure is going to decrease because you're not putting as much air and as much force into the cylinders, so the pressure inside is going to decrease. So you'll see, 21 inches of manifold pressure, maybe you come down to 15. So the engine's producing less force on the prop. The prop would normally slow down, but as the oil pressure decreases going to the propeller blades, those flywheels in the governor are going to go in. They're spinning slower, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're spinning a top attached to a string or like a metal ball and you spin it slower, that ball falls towards the ground, right? It's still spinning.
Yeah.
So as those flyweights move in, that's going to pull the propeller blades in, reducing the angle of attack, increasing the speed, and reducing the drag on the prop. So now they hold that same RPM. But like you said, eventually there's a point where it just cannot reduce or can't maintain that RPM anymore. It hits that backstop, that idle stop, or that low RPM, that pitch stop, and eventually it starts to slow down.
Right.
Okay. Any questions on that?
No.
All right. All right. It's 11:03, so we're doing good on time. Talking to manifold pressure. We've already talked to when you're increasing power, RPM first, blue knob, blue sky. If you're decreasing power, manifold pressure first. Think towards the dirt.
Right.
Okay. Now, one thing I do want to say, every airplane is different. The rule of thumb, and you should treat it as such for the rule of thumb, is your manifold pressure should never exceed your RPM. In non-turbocharged engines, for the most part, that's true. When you move to larger engines, like a turbocharger or a supercharger, which we talked to a little bit, and I'll cover here just to review momentarily, you are going to find that your manifold pressure is going to be higher because you are shoving more air into the cylinders. You have turbo that is pushing air into the engine. So you might have 35 inches, 40 inches of manifold pressure, and the prop's still at 2,500, 2,700 RPM. That's okay. Where do we go? What reference do we use to learn the limitations for your airplane?
Oh, you go to the pilot operating handbook and you look at those cruise tables.
Nailed it. So we'll talk to that briefly here, just turbochargers and superchargers. Before I do, I want to talk to you one thing that most, if not all, complex airplanes have. So cooling. In these higher performance airplanes, engine heat is a big factor. So keeping an eye on the engine systems as you're flying along is really important. In the Cessna 182 I fly, for example, there's a cylinder head temperature limit. It's 400 degrees Fahrenheit. On a hot day, very easy to exceed that. What tool do I have in the cockpit to help manage the heat coming out of the engine?
You have the throttle and you have the mixture.
Yep. So you can. What can we do with the throttle?
Reduce it.
We can reduce it. What can we do with the mixture?
Is this to decrease the temperature? You can increase the mixture.
What is it about the mixture that is causing the temperature decrease?
When you have more fuel, it's burning richer, and that enables the engine to burn cooler. But I'm just giving you the answer. I'm just using the question to answer it. So.
Yeah. No. Well, you got it correct. You make it richer. It's cooling the engine. How? Like you said, it's fuel, but it's not so much it's burning more fuel. It's actually not burning more fuel. You're using the extra fuel that's not being used for combustion to take that heat away. That fuel is absorbing heat, but it's not making power.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Well, I guess now that you put it that way, it's kind of similar to a campfire that I've put more wood on it. It's not going to burn as hot, but if I put more air on it, it's going to burn really hot.
That's right. So you're just adding more fuel. It's not going to get hotter. It might burn longer, but initially, you're probably going to see that fire might go down a little bit. Why? Because the logs are absorbing that heat.
Right.
And eventually you get more power, but that's campfire.
Yeah.
For this, biggest thing is, yep, you got the throttle, you get the mixture, but there's a third thing. The third thing that's going to be new for you compared to like a Cessna Skyhawk.
Would be the RPM.
Cowl flaps.
Oh, cowl flaps, right? Yeah, of course.
Did we talk about cowl flaps last time?
I think so.
All right, talk to me about cowl flaps. What are they there for?
The cowl flaps are to moderate the temperature, so that you can have it. You can open up the cowl flaps, and that allows more air to come in around the engine when you're starting up, taking off, and then when you get up high where it's really cool, in order to keep it warm around the engine, you can close them off.
That's right. Where are the cowl flap controls in the Bonanza?
I'm looking for them right now, and
Want to play hotter, colder?
sure, okay.
All right, warmer, colder, warmer.
Right.
Warmer, warmer. You got it.
That's
nice
the cowl
job.
flaps.
That's your cowl flaps. How
Okay.
can you tell? Because it's labeled cowl flaps. It's
Okay.
the short answer. Every airplane's different. In the 182, it's usually in the middle part of the airplane because it's accessible by both pilot and instructor. But
Okay.
that's it. Go outside view for me.
Okay.
Pan around to where you can see the front of the airplane, on the underside by the engine. Bring us forward. All right. So right there. Yep. Stop. All right. So by the spinner and the propeller blades, air goes into the engine, right? You got hot air inside there. You have typically rubber baffles that help kind of direct the airflow around the cylinders to help manage the cooling. But the hot air's got to go somewhere. And for the most part, it's either just going to dump along the side, it's eventually going to make its way out of the cowling, but the cowl flaps help. Right now they're closed. You see your exhaust stacks right down there on the underside of the airplane? Yep, right there. So that's your first exhaust pipe. Just forward of that, there's a little panel. Nope, not. Go back to the exhaust. Right there, right there. See how there's a little outline around there?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Go back to the cockpit.
Okay.
Now open the cowl flaps. Let's go back outside. What do you see?
That's the cowl flap, and it's open.
I got a big hole at the underside of the airplane now for all that heat. Conveniently located by the exhaust, which is where it's hottest. You've got two sides. When you're doing your pre-flight real airplane, open those. Don't leave them closed, because you want to know, one, is there anything under there? Birds, rats. You got a bad hanger, you got maybe some bugs, or you got some rodents, maybe, that's hot at night. So things can live in there. So open that up and just see, hey, is there anything that's obstructing that? Check the linkages. You don't have to be an engineer to figure this out, but look at it and go, hey, does this look right, and does it function properly? Okay, those are cowl flaps. All right, back to the cockpit.
Back to the cockpit.
All right, so let's talk about cowl flap operation. When do we want to use cowl flaps?
When we want to keep the engine warm, so immediately after starting, and when not immediately after, but I guess when we do we turn the? I'm trying to look at my checklist here. And if I look really quick at it.
So step one there, if it says to do so in the POH, do so in the POH. So that's that. But now think your best judgment. So what do cowl flaps do? When you open them, do they make the engine hotter or cooler?
Cooler.
So if we use cowl flaps to cool the engine,
yeah.
So, when is the engine typically the hottest?
When we're low altitude, low elevation.
That's right. So low altitude, low elevation. What about what we're doing? What phase of flight? What phases of flight would you expect cowl flaps?
When we're working the engine, really hard and we're generating a lot of heat, such as when we're taking off, climbing, and starting her up.
That's it. In a hot summer day, when you're starting, cowl flaps open. What about if it's really cold? You're up in Canada, so right. You've seen how cold winters get.
Sure.
You've seen up in Puget Sound. Would we want them open or closed?
Well, in my checklist it says I have open cowl flaps, but given what you're saying, if it was a cold day, if it was minus 10 Celsius, and I was high in the mountains, or it was a winter day, yeah, I'd close them when I was starting the aircraft.
Yep. Now, in some sections of the POH and more modern POHs, there is an expanded checklist. There's also typically a cold weather operations section of the chapter. So read through that. Every winter I go through and just think, all right, it's been a while, it's been a year. Let's go back through and just, what do we do for winterization? What do we do for cowl flaps? What do I change as the pilot in command to my habits that I've had blasting around all summer? But biggest takeaway for you, cowl flaps. You've talked about the throttle to cool the engine, mixture to cool the engine. Cowl flaps are your friend. Questions on that?
No, that was excellent. Thanks, Navy.
Yeah, no problem. All right. For high altitude considerations, we can talk about that after the flight, time permitting. Since it's flight simulator, I really we'll go through some of the limitations with that, but we'll do that at a later time. All right, turbochargers and superchargers. For both of them, what do they do to the engine?
They increase the amount of air that's going into the carburetor.
That's right. Not so much the carburetor. Maybe some systems, yes, but not.
Yeah, you're right. I guess it's the amount of air that would be going into the system. Well, that'd be a supercharger, and then turbo is what you're doing is you're kind of increasing the overall manifold pressure in the engine.
Well, they're both increasing manifold pressure. You're kind of going around it a little bit. Takeaway is they both increase your manifold pressure. Really what's available to you as the pilot. So in a normal engine, take a Cessna 172, non-high performance airplane.
Mm-hmm.
If you go full power at sea level, that's the best you're going to get, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does the power available to the engine decrease with altitude or increase with
It
altitude?
decreases with altitude.
Decreases. Why does it decrease?
Decreases because there's um, less available air pressure.
That's right, there's less air. You climb up 10,000 feet, that's 10 inches of potential atmospheric pressure, on average, that you've lost. That's 10 inches of power that you've lost. So your engine power is going to decrease. Turbocharger and supercharger crams air into the cylinders of the engine, the thing where the boom happens, where all the power is produced. Um, so if you're sitting at sea level and you have a supercharger, you go full power. Is it, let's say, standard A,
Mm-hmm.
29.92 inches of manifold pressure? Not
Yep.
necessarily. It might be 35, 40.
Sure.
You might have more than that.
Yep.
And there's limits to that. And there's other systems that can kind of help prevent you from overboosting, is what it's called, the engines themselves. What that means is, for you as a pilot, you might not set the throttle all the way forward on takeoff. You might set it to some limit, specifically, like a manifold pressure limit. What it then gives you is, hey, as you climb up in altitude, your manifold pressure is still going to decrease, but hey, your throttle's not all the way forward. So you just push it forward a little bit, and now you have the manifold pressure you're looking for. You push it forward more as you climb, manifold pressure you're looking for. So you get sea level power at altitude. If that makes sense.
Right.
Because you have the sea level pressure, 29.92 is an example, and you can hold that by increasing the throttle slowly to stay within limits, or whatever you want to fly at, all the way up to a point. There is a point where you just cannot cram any more air. Your supercharger, your turbocharger is working as hard as they can, but there's just no more air to shove in. What do we call that altitude?
The critical altitude?
Critical altitude. What happens to our power above the critical altitude?
It's going to reduce.
It's going to reduce, that's right. So eventually, hey, you're full throttle, your props full forward, your mixture is adjusted for altitude. That's just all you're going to get at that point. Now you're just basically a normally aspirated engine, but hey, now you're up at 18,000 feet, 20,000 feet. A lot of Cirruses can get into the low 20s because they've got a turbocharger or supercharger. In terms of how they're built in the engine, what is the difference between a turbocharger and a supercharger?
A supercharger is a mechanical device that actually it's powered off the engine, but it supplies extra pressure into the cylinders. And a go ahead.
Nope, keep going.
And a turbocharger, you're actually using the exhaust gas to increase that power that you're creating, that increased manifold pressure.
That's right. Both of them increase the manifold pressure available to you. Remember, you're still a pilot, so your right hand moving is going to control what goes to the engine, but it gives you more power available. Supercharger, like you said, it's geared to the engine. Typically, it's on the back of the engine case.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you set is going to make that spin faster. Engine spinning faster, supercharger spinning faster, cramming more air. Feeds itself. Downside of that, you're taking power that could be used to move the propeller, and you're using it to move a supercharger. So you lose a little bit of efficiency, but you get instantaneous power all the way through the normal engine operating range. Turbocharger, think turbine charger, turbine powered charger. You have exhaust gas that's spinning a turbine that's connected via a power transfer, like a shaft, to a compressor that's squeezing that air into the cylinders. It's great because now, hey, I don't care about exhaust gas. It's just going overboard. But you're gaining some energy that would have just been lost overboard to spin the thing. Downsides to it, there's limits to how fast that can spin. You won't see that in the cockpit, but it's over to your POH on where you can use a turbocharger. Also, there's temperature considerations, because you have hot exhaust gas spinning a turbine, spinning a compressor, which if you squeeze anything, it's going to make heat. There's limits with that. And that you will see. You'll see like turbine inlet temperature or like turbocharger temperature. It's a limitation. You'll find it in your POH. Questions on that?
No, no, that's
Okay. Okay, good. So at this point here, we got about 10 minutes left, and then we'll get started up here. To that point, do you have anything before we get started?
no, no, that's good. I really like learning about the supercharger and the turbocharger. Just haven't created an opportunity to fly them yet. So
Okay, so we'll get in the air. For the complex pieces, we've talked about flaps. We've talked about a controllable pitch propeller. That was kind of the big focus. The gear. Here's the checklist I want you to write down, and I want to hear you say it every time you're beam the numbers in the pattern. Gumps. Have you heard that before?
yes,
All right, talk me through. Give me all the different steps of gumps.
Gumps is gas, and what I do is I check that I have it on the correct tanks, and I check that I have fuel in my tanks, and then I quickly check U, which is undercarriage. I make sure that my landing gear is down, and then M is for mixture, and I check that the mixture is in the appropriate position, usually full forward, and P is for propeller. Make sure that the blue knob is full forward, or I have very low pitch, high RPM, and S is for seat belt. Make sure the seat is secure, and the seat belts are done up.
That's right. Some people humorously say that all of it's about landing gear. Gear down, undercarriage down, make sure the gear is down. Please check the gear is down, see if the gear is down. That's another way of putting it. But every time we're being the numbers today, I want to hear you say gas, undercarriage, mixture, prop, seatbelt. You don't have to say every single item because it's a lot of words. Just give me gas, undercarriage, mixture, prop, seatbelt. I want you to look around in the cockpit every time to make sure that you're doing those steps. And then you can call gumps complete. My last technique, it's technique only, you don't have to. Every time I turn final, first look both ways for across the street, make sure nobody else is on final. And then I call out verbally, final checks, gear down, clear to land. I just take one last look. Hey, am I crazy here?
Yep.
Is the gear down?
Since October, maybe, and you told me that, every time I turn final, I've been checking to see that my gear is down, even when I'm flying a fixed gear aircraft.
That's good.
It's just got it. I got it synced into my head now. When I'm on final, I say that. When
That's
I say the word final, it's gear down and locked.
Good. Well, then we'll have fun today. All right. You'll be in the left seat. I'll be in the right seat. It's three-way positive exchange controls all day. My goal is I want you flying the majority of the flight. Make all your radio calls as if you were on VATSIM. I will pretend to be air traffic control. I'll pretend to be ATIS. Just tell me, hey, I'm tuned the Lake County ATIS. I'm tuned the Altitas Municipal ATIS, and then I will give it to you as if you were actually online. Okay?
Okay.
Otherwise, three-way positive exchange. You run the checklist. You're the aircraft commander. You're the pilot in command. If you are moving your throttle, prop, or mixture, call it out. I want to make sure that it's moving for me as well on your controls. And then lastly, this was a cleanup from last time, make sure you can see out the plane. So I don't want you down hugging the instrument panel. If you need a booster seat, use it today, because that sounds like that was the big issue when we were flying around the pattern last time.
Yeah, it was definitely the big issue. How does it look right now? You can see my screen?
Yep, that looks pretty good. As long as you can see just a little touch of the cowling, that's just fine. But make sure you have something that you can quickly access to move your viewpoint.
Yeah.
When you're flying around the pattern, because oftentimes I'll make sure my seat's back, but I'll kind of lean up or kind of just make sure my back's straight when I'm flying around the pattern, and then I will move as needed to see.
Yeah.
All right. But without further ado, your aircraft, I'm in the right seat, and you are ready to go.
Okay. Did you need to take a little break, maybe, or do you want to just do it?
I don't. Over to you.
I'm good.
I went and had my coffee, so I'm ready to go.
I'm good.
Is your ship.
Okay. So let's.
Yo, what is up?
Hey, verify.
We're
What are you doing, pattern work?
Yep.
We're doing a high performance lesson. It'll have some pattern work.
What aircraft do you?
So I'm flying in a Bonanza, but just so you know, I'm going to be focusing pretty much on Navy, so I may not be answering your question. So I'm not trying to be
Yeah, I'm
rude.
gonna be on mute anyway, so I'm just watching your screen.
Yeah, no worries.
Perfect. I'll be in his right seat giving him instruction.
That
Okay.
aircraft,
Parking brake
what you
set.
call it?
This
That
is
aircraft, payware?
no.
Nope.
This is a standard one. So the
On
avionics
on
are off.
2020?
2020.
Okay.
Circuit breakers are off. They're all in, and the circuit breakers are over here, right?
That's right. They might be also on the right sidewall panel too. Some
Oh.
airplanes have them.
Sure.
Looks like we don't.
I can see that the little lever that looks like a wheel, landing gear's down and locked. And if I threw the battery on, you see the green lights light up. So that's good.
Good.
I make sure the cowl flaps are open.
Okay.
It's pretty cold today, so there's it's -7, I think, here right now. So
it's 4 degrees right now.
It's 4. Okay. It's gone up. It was cold a little bit earlier. It's coming up fast. I guess the sun's out warming it up. So props clear. And battery and alternator are on. And lights, beacons on. And do a double check the fuel selector valve and make sure that's on. And the fuel selector valve in this aircraft is over here.
That's right.
And it appears, is that on?
You tell me. Zoom in and slide forward if you have to.
It's off there. So it's right main. There we go. Left main, right main. So that seems to be on.
Okay.
And the fuel gauge check. And I can see that I've got fuel. I've got plenty for this flight. And the flaps are down right now. So I'm going to put the flaps down. And I check to see that they're down. And I can see indeed they are down. So that's the before start checklist. And having a little bit of trouble with my checklist. It's gone into a wheel of patience. Here we go. Mixture. So the start checklist: mixture full rich, propeller high RPM, throttle fully open, fuel pump on until the fuel flow peaks, and the fuel flow is over here.
Fuel pump off.
Fuel pump off.
With this, especially for fuel injected engines, that's a little too long.
Okay.
You don't need to wait necessarily for it to just stop.
2 seconds,
As soon
3
as it
seconds.
starts to slow down,
Okay.
fuel pump off. Very easy to flood
Okay.
an engine, a high performance engine.
Okay. Throttle's open 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to do a quick check again to make sure the prop is clear, and then we'll hit the start. And we've got a good start. And I immediately looked and see that we got oil pressure.
Nice job.
See the oil pressure's up in the green already, which is real nice. I'm going to lean my mixture out right now so that we make sure it's not running too hot, or not fouling the plugs because it's running too rich.
Very good.
And then I turn my fuel pump off. And I'm going to record the time that I'm starting the aircraft up, and it's currently 19:28. Okay, So checking that fuel pump's off, checked it, the alternator's on, it's charging. Alternator's over here, it's in the green. Ammeter, we checked that. And where is my ammeter?
So it's your alternator load.
Small alternator load?
Yeah, on
Okay.
some G1000 it actually reads it to you, and I think this is a little inaccurate, but that's in general. You got your amps, and then you have your volts on
Okay.
top.
Engine indicators, oil temperature, cylinder head temperature. As you said, the alternator load's good. So that looks good. And engine instruments, I want to check to see that I've got either the QNH or the elevation of the of Lake County here. And elevation here is 4,734. So and if I look at the QNH right now, it's at 3024. So 3024. I'm at 29. Go ahead.
Since you wouldn't have Sky Vector in the real airplane, how would you get the ATIS, or how would you get the weather? Kind of gave the answer away.
Well, I could tune into the ATIS if there was one available on the radio. And at Lake County here, if I look at the chart supplement, it actually gives me the ASOS here. So I have a frequency for the ASOS. Trouble is in Microsoft it doesn't work, so I have to use Sky Vector.
Well, here's the thing. Like I said, I will be your ATIS. I will be your air traffic control. I'll be your other traffic. So I will try and help you through the limitations for the sim.
Okay.
Do it like you would in the real world. Try to put Sky Vector away. We're in the airplane now. What you got. If you don't have paper charts or you don't have ForeFlight, then yeah, absolutely you can pull that out.
Yeah.
But bear in mind, I would limit it to just the sectional, since
Okay,
that tells you it too. Go back to Sky Vector, the chart view.
The chart view?
Yep.
This one? Or this one here?
Back to, yep. So scale in for me.
Yep.
What's the AWAS frequency?
It's 135525.
That's right. It says it on the chart.
Okay.
All right.
So we could tune to that.
Good. Let's get your avionics on.
Avionics on? You bet. Okay.
It's going to get your radios working. There you go. And then remember, and you do this in the real world with your instructor, especially in the sim. Hey, I'm up ATIS. And then they will read it to you as if they were actual ATIS. That's what I meant by that.
Okay. Okay.
Your instructor is going to role play with you for air traffic control, especially when you're in a sim. Since we're always in a sim, flight simulator, hey, it makes works.
Okay.
All right. Lake County Airport, automated weather observation. 1853 Zulu. Winds calm. Temperature 4 degrees. Dew point -1. Altimeter 3024. Lakeview, automated weather observation. 1853 Zulu. Winds calm. Visibility 10. Sky conditions clear below 2000. Temperature 4 Celsius. Dew point -1. Altimeter 3024.
So
Lake County Airport, automated weather observation. When you're done.
I'm waiting. I was just waiting to hear, like, whether it was Bravo or Charlie or Zulu.
So that's an ATIS. So you got a human in the loop. Big airport, they're going to have Alpha, Bravo, Charlie.
Oh, okay.
Small airports, there is no automated weather.
No, you're right.
There is no ATIS letter. There you go.
Okay, I just flipped it off. So I've got that. So I could tune it to 3024.
That's right.
There we go.
Yep. Looks like it's right on airport elevation. It's good.
Right on airport elevation, and then I'm going to tune to the frequency here for the for the CTAF because I mean, it's supposed to be a manned airport, but I know on VATSIM it's not going to be a manned airport. If I needed to get the tower, I would look at the chart supplement again. But today it's going to be 122.8, or should I do it as the tower?
Does this airport have a tower?
Um,
Wait, go back to the chart. No cheating.
okay.
You read it. This will tell you right away. You can look right at it and say, nope, there is no tower. How can you tell?
There is no tower because a towered airport is going to look a bit different. In particular, well, I'll give you this airport here does have a tower, right?
Sure does.
So it'll say control tower and then it'll give the frequency.
That's one way, but there's a big obvious, like, you could be scaled all the way out. I can't even read that, but I can see the color.
The blue.
So let's go back to Lake County. What color's the airport?
It's magenta.
Magenta. If it's magenta, it's missing. It's
right.
Missing the tower.
Right. Okay. Missing a tower, magenta.
That's right. So it's just a CTAF, which is listed right there, 122.8.
Okay, so I tune it to 122.8, and I'm going to do that on COM 1, 122.8.
Okay.
And flop it over. So we're listening to 122.8 right now, and I'll be transmitting on 122.8.
Okay.
So, there we go. And then while I'm here and I'm setting my radio, I know that I'm also going down to Altus Municipal, so I look and check and I see that that's not a towered airport, and I'm going to be on 122.8 there, so we'll be good for both airports. And I see that it's right pattern for runway 13 and 21, and I see the elevation, the elevation there as well.
Yep, nice catch there. Like we said, since you're the only one in the world right now on Flight Simulator, as far as this is concerned, if you want to fly a left traffic just to see a left traffic pattern,
sure,
your discretion, just let me know.
Sure. And I could do that in real life too, right?
You would do it in real life. We can talk about why once we get on.
Sure. I think this is going to be right pattern. Let's see. 1-3. Oh, I see. There's 2 runways here. They're trying to get us to avoid this built-up area. That's what they're trying to do.
That's exactly. Yep, it's a noise and it's a safety consideration.
So 2-1, we're going to be turning right here to avoid that, and 1-3, which would be this one right here. They want me to turn right here. So both of those enable me to avoid this yellow area.
Sure do. Nice job.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so where are we? Flight instrument set, so we've got to put the transponder on. We want to put that on alt 1200. We're going to set the CDI on the localizer so that I could use my nav radios if I was going to use them. And I also want to access my DME because Alturas has a DME, although it doesn't have a VOR. And I got to admit, I don't know how to access a DME on without a VOR, but I'm assuming it's the same as if I was trying to tune to a VOR, right?
There is. Here, we can skip that for now, just for the sake of getting
Okay,
airborne.
sure, you bet.
The goal here is the altitude piece, but I will tune that in for you. Like you said, it's the same as a VOR. So
okay.
I'm going to put in 116.65. We'll go to CDI, PFD options, bearing. Now we're not going to pick it up here because we're on the ground over 40 miles away. But, and you can use runway 35 for takeoff since winds are cold.
I'll use runway 35. I'm just setting my heading for when I'm flying down there. I'm going to set it to 161.
Okay.
And then
remember,
go ahead.
It's VFR a day, so So don't need to load any flight planning in. You can if you want.
Sure,
But we
we
can
will.
also just use our eyes because you've got Goose Lake down to the south, and then you've got Highway 395 that takes you right into town. So
Right.
plenty of visual features. Plus that'll get your eyes outside.
Right. And then I want to set my altitude just so I remember what it is, and it's over here. So I'm going to be flying at a height of, well, as long as I stay less than 3,000 feet AGL, I don't have to fly at an even or odd. Is that right?
Correct.
That's right.
Less
Yeah.
than 3,000 AGL, or if you're in turning flight,
Right.
not needed. For maneuvering, that's turning flight.
Okay.
So it's not really caring about altitude so much. It's cruising.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure that if we fly at 6,500, we'd be clear to get
Right.
down here. So.
And we got to be done in 50 minutes.
Okay, so let's get going.
We're in Colorado.
So 6,500.
Actually, we're up in the...
So I just set it up here to remind me what the altitude is.
Okay.
So there we go. So I've checked all the instruments and the flight instruments. I've set and checked, and then I could test the autopilot, but I think we'll bypass that for now,
Yep.
just in the interest of time.
Yep,
And,
we'll hand fly today.
So taxi, my call would be Lake County traffic, Bonanza 327 Golf Alpha, taxiing for departure 35, Lake County.
Nice job. Nailed it. I got nothing for you. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's take off. Okay.
In the real world, and you can skip it for now for the sake of time, check your brakes once we're moving, just to make sure the movement. Or
Yeah.
moving now. That works too.
No, and I'm looking to see that the heading indicator and the turn coordinator are working.
That's good. Nice job. And then taxiing around unfamiliar airport, I would scale in on my MFD to where I can see the airfield. G1000s, even the non-NXI, it's going to say safe taxi. And I can do that for you. Nope, zoom in, there you go, there you go. Yep, a lot more SA there.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
So basically I'm going to go down this taxiway here and I'm going to take a left, and I'm almost there. I'm almost at 3.5.
Actually, yeah, you're a straight shot to the runway.
I don't want to taxi faster than about 14 or 15 knots ground speed.
Yep. All right. And your before takeoff checklist.
Okay, my before takeoff checklist is park and brake is set. Right, doors and windows are secure, and
Secured?
yeah, and I make sure that the controls are free and clear, and I check to see that they're working. I'm not going to be able to see my elevator or my rudder. Oh, I can see my I can see my elevator, but I can't see my rudder from here.
You can't, and that's why you check it on pre-flight.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
And bringing the throttle up to 1700 RPM. I've got my brakes on. My throttle's really sensitive, so it's hard to get it right on 1700.
It's all right.
Okay. Now because it's a constant speed prop, I'm going to cycle the prop here rather than throw it onto the different cycle the prop, So I'm going to obtain a 300 to 400 RPM drop.
Good. Okay.
And I'm watching to see that the manifold pressure decreases while I increase the prop, and I make sure that the oil pressure decreases while I decrease the pitch of the prop. And I'm going to cycle that. Go ahead.
Manifold pressure will increase when you decrease the prop. They're backwards. They're flipped.
Right.
Engine's not producing as much drag or fighting as much drag, so you get more power. But you got all three, so that's good.
Yeah, I can see it increase, so that's done. Then I want to check to see that the mags, I get a drop on that. And when I flew earlier this morning, I wasn't actually getting a drop on the mags. I don't know why.
Go ahead.
It was hardly noticeable. So, right mag. Oh, I'm getting a drop now.
And same.
Both mags. Left mag. Both mags. Okay.
Good.
And then I'm going to bring the RPM back down to 1,000 after and I'm going to bring my flaps up now. And I visually check to see that they're up. And I look to see that the flaps indicator's up, and it is. Okay. And I'm going to set my mixture to full rich, and then I'm going to release. But before I do that, I make my radio call. So, Lake County, Bonanza 327 Golf Alpha, departing 35 to the south. Lake County.
Nice job. Clear right.
Okay. Hang on. So my mixture is going to be full rich. Props full forward. Take a look to the left, or the right. Take a look to the left. I got nobody coming in, so I'm clear to release the brake, taxi out, and begin my takeoff. We confirm the numbers, 3.5. Center it up on the center line. Smoothly increase to full power. Time off is 1947.
Say that again.
You think the 787 would do like
Positive rate. Gear up.
Continue. Then just check your caution. That's not realistic. Okay, gears up. I don't have an answer for you. We're going to focus on the lesson here for the sake of time. We got 45 minutes left. Mac, I want you to keep your climb out going. I want you to go up to 8.5 for me, please.
Going to 8.5.
I'll set your bug for you. You just focus on the climb.
Okay, and I'm okay. Going to begin my left-hand turn so I can start to head to the south.
Yep.
Lake County traffic. 327 Golf Alpha. A left crosswind. 3.5. Lake County. Lake County traffic. Bonanza 327 Golf Alpha, a left downwind. 3.5 will be extending downwind and departing the area. Lake County. Okay, I want to climb at 109. So I'm going to increase the pitch to reduce the speed.
I'll just give you the answer here for the sake of time. I'd bring your mixture back probably about maybe a quarter inch to half inch. You're at 7,000 feet. We started at 4,700. There you go. It's going to give you a little more power.
Okay.
All right.
Lots
Keep
of power.
playing.
And I'm going to adjust my manifold pressure pretty soon.
Yep. So 1,000 to go. Keep pointing south. You've got the lake off the nose. Just keep pointing towards the south end of the lake.
Okay.
We're going to have about 15 minutes in the pattern, so we'll go direct to the airport, and then we won't make the return leg.
Okay.
You guys, same doing shared cockpit.
Yep, he's getting a lesson on high performance and complex flying.
Leveling out 8,500.
All right. Using your trim.
I'm using my trim.
Good.
And I'm going to lean it out a bit more.
Okay. When you get to it, so your pilot command, so do whatever you need to do for cruise flying to include your checklist, but when you get to it, I want you to set 21, 23 power set.
Okay.
Actually, let's update that. I'll have you set 2023.
2023.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to reduce the throttle first, and then I'll reduce the RPM.
Nice job. In that order.
$21.
20.
20, you say?
Yep, 2023 I updated it.
2023. Gotcha.
Watch your altitude. Just creeping up there a little bit. All right. About 2023. All right, cruise checklist.
Cruise checklist. Cowl flaps close.
Why do we close the cowl flaps?
Just keep things warm. Well,
That's right. We aren't really worried about heat so much. What's the ope? What'd you catch?
Say again.
What'd you catch? Was it your altitude?
Yeah, altitude's too low.
Yep. So let's bring it back up to 85.
80, coming back up to 85. On heading to the end of the lake.
Good. All right. Any other items for the cruise checklist?
Cruise checklist. Mixture. Set the fuel flow with the mixture.
Yep. So your POH is going to have the desired fuel flow. Typically, people will just set it to the fuel flow. If you didn't have that or that guidance, there's other techniques for that, but it's beyond the scope for the lesson.
Okay. You'd use the EGT.
Yep, I'd use the EGT. Or I could use, if it was like in a Cessna when the engine's running rough. Mac, I want you to turn right heading 180.
Turn right heading 180. Let's turn right heading one. The other right, not the left.
Your other right.
The other right, yeah. I'm on altitude again.
Good. Alright, Mac, back. I want you to climb and maintain 9,500.
Okay, so I'm going to climb. So I put in, reduce the pitch of the prop. And you said one, what was it again? Sorry.
9,500.
9,500.
I understand you're westbound. We're going to disregard that just for the sake of practice. So good, nice job. Got the RPM in first, manifold pressure second. One thing it will probably help you when you get to the real thing. I love that you've got the concept of, hey, low pitch. We're going to decrease pitch of the prop. That is a true statement. You've got that right. You're in the flying piece, so I would say what you're doing, and I would match it with what's in the cockpit. So prop to high RPM, because that's what you're going to control, and that's what you're going to see. That'll help when you actually get to the plane, because now you're tying what your hands are doing and what your eyes are seeing to the concept we talked to. Okay.
Okay, so I'm reducing the throttle, prop to low. I reduced the throttle first.
Throttle first, good.
And that was 20, 23, right?
That's right.
So I'm already, I don't know if I can get up to 20. Well, yeah, I can get right at 20 there.
Yeah. So you're at full throttle
20,
and you're at 20 inches.
And then I'm reducing the throttle to 23 because I'm doing it backwards now.
Reducing the RPM to 23.
Reducing the RPM to 23. Heading 180.
Yep.
Altitude.
Why are we only getting... Yep, so your altitude's good, your heading's good. Why are we only getting 20 inches at full throttle? You're not doing anything wrong here, just like mental. We talked about on the ground. You're at full throttle, why are we only getting 20 inches?
Because there's less air pressure up here.
That's right, normally aspirated engine.
So if we had a turbo or a supercharger, I'd be able to increase that manifold pressure.
That's right. Would you be at full throttle?
No.
Not necessarily.
I might be. If it was a really low pressure day, I might be.
That's right. If it was like a really lousy turbo or you had an issue with it, maybe.
Yeah.
If you were up way higher, but probably not. That's a big thing I want you to take away. It's power you have available. Doesn't mean you're going to use it. Because if you went full throttle at sea level, guess what? You're going to overboost the engine. Put
Right.
too much air. It's like a balloon. You can only inflate it so much. Nice job with that. Alright. You are... let's take a look here. You are 20 miles from Alturas Municipal.
And is that showing on my DME?
It is not. So what that tells me is it is not functioning.
Okay.
Now, what I'll try here is I will switch to ANAF DME tuning. Nope. So let me play around with it and see if...
Well, I'm glad you're here because I wouldn't have known that it wasn't functioning. So.
Yeah, it is not, unfortunately, and that looks like a simism. But you could tune it, and then with the bearing pointer, won't point you to anything, but at least read your distance.
Okay.
Which is unfortunate. All right, your AWOS is 124.175.
124.175.
And Mac, continue to maintain heading 180, descend and maintain 6,500.
Okay, so descending, I'm going to take some of the... Well, I could probably just begin a descent by reducing the throttle first.
That's right.
I'm sorry, maybe what was the number again? Say again the altitude.
6,500.
Going down to 6,500, and I should have wrote down the frequency for the AWOS. What was that?
124.175.
124.175.
because they're not using a mouse and a joystick, and the airplane has some weight to it, and physics are real. So
124175. So I've tuned it in now.
okay, you've got Alturas Municipal Airport automated weather observation 1855 Zulu, wind calm, visibility 10, sky conditions clear below 12,000, temperature 5 Celsius, dew point -3, altimeter 3023. Alturas Municipal automated weather observation.
Okay.
18.
So I just turned off COM 2, and I got that. So I'm gonna make sure that the QNH is set to 3023.
Okay.
And it's pretty close, 3024.
Yeah, you could set 3023.
3023. So my altimeter is set. I'm still on heading. I'm still just heading down to 6,500.
All right. Your pattern. Do you want to make left traffic or right traffic? For
Let's do it the way it's supposed to be done. Let's do right traffic.
Okay. If that's the case, we'll make right traffic for runway 13. So cross over. Tell you what, take a look at your chart. How are you going to traffic?
Okay, let's take a look at my chart. So right traffic for 13. 13 is going to be heading this way here. So I'm going to be going, I can go over top of the airport and I can come back around, do the teardrop, and then turn right pattern, or I can just stay on the north side and come around and join just a big circle and join the right traffic this way.